Hello, Bruce, and it's a pleasure for me to welcome you here at Immuneel. You've been our scientific advisory board member for over 4 years now, and it's an immense honor to have you visit us and spend time with us, as well as with the Research and Innovation Group at Immuneel. I want to start by saying a warm thank you to all of your efforts helping us over the last 4 years. It's truly enabled us to bring cell therapies to life, to India, and to Indian patients have access to some of these cutting-edge therapies. Starting it off, I want to check to ask you, how do you feel coming to Immuneel and seeing the work that's being done at our labs?
Yeah, so Arun, thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity to be here. It's actually amazing to see what's happened here, to meet all of the people, to see the facility in real life, or IRL, as we say, and to see how the ideas are coming into reality. So congratulations to you,
Thank you
on establishing first the company, the facility, bringing the people in with the expertise. I think it's a real testament to the commitment of you, the leadership team, and the whole company as a whole to see what is here now.
It hasn't been an easy journey. 2 years of that journey has been consumed with the COVID pandemic, and I'm sure that's also influenced a lot of the progress that you've seen across the world for the cell and gene therapy space. Many startups and many small companies have been affected by that downturn in events.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell that story where I go to give talks around the world of what Immuneel has done even through the pandemic, and it's received a really incredible reception.
Thank you. And it was also a very eye-opening moment when we were invited to speak at Silicon in 2023 June, and to hear from some of the other countries which have started their journeys as well in providing access to cell therapies. And it struck me then when someone walked up to me and said, "You must be proud of where you've reached in such a short period of time, given where a lot of the other countries are still struggling to set up systems."
Yeah.
So thank you for the invitation to speak at Silicon.
Absolutely. And look, there are different models around the world. We know that access is a challenge. At Penn Medicine, we innovate and we translate and we test in clinical trials, but the ultimate goal is to be able to disseminate these new technologies around the world. And just looking even in North America and Europe, there have been people who have estimated from data that they've acquired that maybe only 20% of patients that are eligible have received CAR T cells. So why is that? That's education, it's geography, it's caregiver, it's economics. So we need to work around the world, we need to work locally, and I think that's where my interest in Immuneel and supporting Immuneel comes, is providing access to patients around the world and having Immuneel be a laboratory in a sense for what we can take back to the US, to Europe, to provide access to patients.
Yes, thank you. And we are very eager to see the work that we do make an impact beyond the shores of India as well. You've been a pioneer in the cell and gene therapy space, and one of the first inventors of a CAR T therapy that's made it into patients and also being regulated by the FDA. How do you view the work that we are doing and the mission that we are on in that context, coming in from the United States?
Yeah, so we've had a long road. When we started in cell and gene therapy, it was really a boutique field, a niche field, and there was a lot of skepticism on feasibility. But now, with the emergence of CAR T cells and other immunotherapies, there is more awareness and acceptance. And I think we're looking at a new pillar of medicine, and it's going to be hard, and there are going to be skeptics, there are going to be technical hurdles and other hurdles, but if we have the foresight, we can take the steps on the journey to enable those technologies to reach patients, and that's again why I'm so excited to be a part of the advisory board for Immuneel.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask about something which I know you're very passionate about, which is the ISCT network. I think in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a significant outreach from ISCT to several people across the world, inviting them to join the network, inviting people to build the future of cell and gene therapies through the ISCT work that you have, even as last year's past president, have been championing across the world. In your view, as you look at the cell and gene therapy space evolving, how has some of the consensus about the development of these therapies started to emerge? I know the US and European authorities have taken the lead on some of these guidelines and being established for the cell and gene therapy space, but there are other centers across the world which are starting to develop some of these therapies. So from your vantage point of being the past president, a very active member of ISCT, can you talk to us a little bit about some of that mission and vision of ISCT and how it helps build bridges and build consensus in the cell and gene therapy development space?
Yeah, so maybe first a few words about ISCT. We are a global translational society that is built on 3 pillars: a scientific pillar, a regulatory and quality operations pillar, and a commercialization pillar. And we established that early on, not long after our founding in 1992. And because cell and gene therapy is so unique, you need to be proficient in all 3 of these languages. So that's the perspective that we're coming from. What we've seen in the past few years is the dramatic growth in the field, in approvals, in our membership. Our membership has more than doubled since 2019. We're in 65 countries now. And through our regional leadership, we've been able to establish relationships with national and local regulatory authorities to share expertise between the US and Australia and Europe and South and Central America, where we recently established a legal and regulatory affairs committee. Mm-hmm. So the perspective is we have built expertise of one kind in one region. Let's bring it to all regions. If we have another type of expertise that is in another region, let's share that. Let's harmonize regulations, pathways, so that these products, which are truly global now, because we have global approvals, we do need to be able to share that expertise to translate cell and gene therapies for the benefit of patients worldwide.
Thank you, Bruce. I think a very core comment that you just made, which resonates to what I was thinking about, was the fact that when development happens across regions, you also get inputs from multiple regions, and therefore stitching together a better future is a democratic approach where it should be something which benefits the large majority of patients across the world. And I think that's a very, very unique aspect of ISCT, and I wish you very good luck in making sure that we can get as many people onto the platform to homogenize and harmonize the use of cell therapies across the world.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So Bruce, continuing, in your view, given the fact that cell and gene therapies have started to make a difference to patients' lives, and we're seeing a lot of development activities, both in academia and in industry, and over the last, I think, 4 years, we've had about 6 approved FDA products. What are the 2 or 3 key areas of development that you're seeing that can make a shift in how we see cell and gene therapies be developed?
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a number of things. We're seeing development in areas beyond cancer and rare disease and autoimmune disease and perhaps in other diseases, and looking at CAR T cell therapy, for example, we have some very exciting results in autoimmune disease, and there are more companies getting into that space. I think we're also thinking of CAR T cells in solid tumors and the challenges of solid tumors and how to engineer those cells to enhance potency without increasing toxicity. And that may include CAR T cells incorporated with other modalities to enhance the therapeutic effect. Globally, I think we're seeing development of CAR T cell areas in parts of the world where we have not previously. Setting aside India, last month I was in Brazil attending a cell and gene therapy meeting and was surprised by the amount of activity in clinical trials and also in facilities. It's not just a boutique niche field anymore. I think the awareness is there in the public domain. And maybe the last thing I'll add is before the end of 2023, we're going to see an approval, we should see an approval of what would be the first gene-edited product that is in sickle cell disease incorporating CRISPR technology. So I think we will see the incorporation of gene editing into cell and gene therapies beyond CRISPR and including the base editors as ways to enhance potency and function, but potentially as a way to move allogeneic products forward, although there may be a shift as well as we're working on our processes, automating and shortening processes. We also have the emergence of in vivo gene therapies, and that is incorporating virus particles, nanoparticles, or lipid nanoparticles. So there's, you asked me 2 or 3, and maybe I stopped there at 4, but there is a whole lot of exciting activity.
Understood. You know, at Immuneel, we often get lots of pings from patients who are not with hematological disease, but with solid tumors. And they say, you know, I know someone who's got colorectal cancer, I know someone's got ovarian cancer, can you do something about it? Do you have a program in solid tumors about this? And very often we've heard, you know, the tumor microenvironment in solid tumors is a challenge, and the heterogeneity of solid tumors or organ tumors is a problem. It also means that identifying a target as clean as some of the hematological targets are a challenge. Do you have any insights from Penn as to how you and your group at Penn are trying to come around this problem in solid tumors?
Yeah, so I mentioned enhancing potency, and we're certainly doing that. Another thing that we're looking at is the right combination of CARs to target antigens in solid tumors. And a third I'll mention is local delivery, which on a large scale can be difficult to implement, because you think of where's the tumor and can it be directly injected or reached. But with glioblastoma, that's always in the brain. And there is a way to reach that site by a commonly used method called an Ommaya reservoir that's used to deliver chemotherapy, but can also be used to develop CAR T cells. There is a study that we have open at Penn that we're very excited about using that technique, but this has also been used at Stanford, at City of Hope, the local injection of CAR T cells in a solid tumor and specifically in central nervous system tumors.
Very exciting space indeed. You mentioned about your visits to several other countries in the last few months, right? And it's always been a very curious question in my mind as to what are the other countries apart from the US and European Union doing about cell and gene therapies and their access. You mentioned Brazil, you mentioned that you've also had some indication of progress in Southeast Asian countries. So could you talk to us a little bit about what you've observed in other countries beyond US and Europe in the cell and gene therapy space?
Yeah, so the first thing that arises is the research programs. And after establishment of the research programs, how can they begin CAR T cell therapy? And most of the time it's CAR-19. That is a CAR targeted against CD19 because that is the target for 4 of the 6 approved CAR T cell therapies. There are many thousands of patients around the world that have received a CAR T cell therapy targeting CD19, so there is a basis for comparison to deliver this to patients. But it comes back to a lot of the things that we see in this new pillar of medicine evolving, which is establishing the research expertise, establishing the clinical center expertise that includes not only the clinicians, but the collection centers, apheresis, and all of the associated infrastructure that is required to research, translate, manufacture, test, deliver, and monitor for cell and gene therapy. So it is a fairly comprehensive multi-areas of expertise that need to be established, and that's why I think it's so important that from regions such as North America that have early on developed these therapies, that we work with regions around the world to share our expertise. But I'm a firm believer that we can learn a lot from the development of these cell and gene therapies in other regions and how to bring that back and make more efficient the delivery of therapies in the US.
That's a very important point you raised about efficiency in development, because some of these resource-constrained environments do provide a very fertile ground for building efficiency. Where you don't have as much resources, we try and maximize as much as we can. I have one last question, and really thank you for your time on this. We've heard a lot of news about the ideal way of building efficiency in delivering cell therapies. Do you make a large plant in the middle of a continent? Do you decentralize it into several other hospitals? Can they make some of these therapies locally? Would you advise that this is even doable for cell and gene therapies? I'd like to have your closing remarks on this kind of an emergent phenomenon in building efficiency of cell therapy delivery.
Yeah, so if we think about centralized or decentralized manufacturing, the pitch that's made for decentralized manufacturing in hospital is that it's closer to the patient and that it's cheaper, but I don't really think that it's cheaper or more efficient necessarily because of the level of expertise that needs to be built. Now, the clinical expertise always needs to be at the hospital, that's
yes.
obvious, but the manufacturing and the analytics and the development, that's a very tall order, along with the regulatory and quality operations, the quality assurance oversight. So it's one thing to conduct a clinical trial, but in a commercial setting for decentralization, you do have to demonstrate comparability. Otherwise, you have many, many different types of drugs that are being developed. So there needs to be effort devoted to that harmonization. And then the question is, what's the incentive? Because if there is not a significant economic incentive, then centralized is more efficient. And there we can look to other industries, whether it's automobile manufacturing or the manufacturing of some other widget or tool. centralized manufacturing is the norm because you have the expertise, you have streamlined operations. If you decentralize, then you have capacity that waxes and wanes. And when you have a decentralized facility, you're building for the mean. You're not building for 5 times what you expect every month. But every once in a while, you get a lot of patients coming in more often. And when that happens, you will have patients that cannot be served because that's over the capacity of a decentralized facility. When you don't have patients coming in, you have a very expensive facility and people trained sitting around, and that's costing money. That is idle capacity that's wasted. And again, it just doesn't make economic sense. So until someone can demonstrate that there is an economic incentive, I think this talk of decentralization really only applies to clinical trials conducted by centers and not to a commercial setting.
Yes, and it's a very important point you raised again, because when I've spoken to academic centers who have an interest, they often give the model of Penn, saying, look at Penn. They've been able to set up a large cell therapy unit from within the system to be able to service its patients. And then I often have to pause and point them to the fact that Penn didn't do it free. They had to have spent a lot of time and effort and money in putting together that system. And because it was a research organization, it suited its objectives to be able to bring forth new therapies from that sphere. And so I think it's a growing understanding that manufacturing of cell therapies is not like another therapy that you make in a research center. It's truly full-fledged GMP. It's truly full-fledged centralized procedure for approving a drug. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a very good time speaking with you, Bruce, and I've learned a lot from your insights into the space. And I hope you enjoy your stay in India and that you have very fond memories when you return.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.